You scroll. You swipe. You stare. But none of it touches that place inside you that aches quietly when you're alone. You've chased the thrill. You've tasted the heat of lust. But still, something is missing. You think it's more bodies, more novelty, more validation. But what if that hunger isn't for sex at all? What if your deepest craving was never physical? What if every desire, every longing, every ache in your chest was a secret code, pulling you back to something sacred? Something eternal? What if your sexual energy wasn't a distraction from your spiritual path, but the very bridge that leads you back to God? You were not born to run from desire. You were not meant to numb it, deny it, fear it. You were meant to feel it, to stand in the fire of it, and remember who you are. You were born in heat, formed in union, shaped by longing long before you took your first breath. And yet, look at you now. You're afraid of your own hunger. Afraid that wanting too much makes you weak. Afraid that desire is dangerous, dirty, unspiritual. But let me ask you, who taught you that? Who taught you that the most powerful force inside you, your desire to touch, to be touched, to merge, to dissolve, was your enemy? The truth is this: your desire is not just lust. It is not just sex. It is your soul calling you back to your origin, to the divine. That ache in your chest? That heat in your belly? That craving for something more than you've ever tasted? It's not sin. It's sacred memory. It's the echo of the place you came from, the sacred temple of union where you and God were once one. You've forgotten that place. You've forgotten that union. Because this world buried it under shame, fear, and dopamine. You scroll through naked bodies, swipe through strangers, chase heat without meaning, and still, you're empty. Not because you're broken, but because your soul is thirsty for something holy. Desire is the compass of the soul. It doesn't point to people, it points to truth, to energy, to ecstasy, to the divine pulse beneath all things. But to reach it, you must stop outsourcing your desire to the external. You must stop thinking that another body can save you from your own disconnection. Because your temple is not out there. It's in you. And your desire is the key that unlocks its doors. You feel it, don't you? That surge of heat rising from deep inside. That unexplainable pull when you see someone who stirs something primal in you. You try to write it off as biology, as evolution, as chemicals. But it's more than that. There's a moment, brief, electric, when your body reacts before your mind does. You feel it in your spine, in your chest, in your breath. It is not just arousal. It is remembrance. The ancient mystics knew this. That when the body stirs, the soul is trying to speak. You were taught to silence it, to tuck it away, to label it impure, shameful, or animal. But what if the animal is not your enemy? What if your body is the doorway, and your desire is the invitation to cross the threshold? In Tantra, they say that the Shakti energy, raw, feminine, creative power, lies coiled at the base of your spine. It waits. Patiently. Powerfully. It is your divine potential, hidden in your flesh. When awakened with presence, it rises like a serpent, not to overwhelm you, but to unite you. It wants to meet the Shiva within you, pure consciousness, masculine stillness, the unmoved mover. The meeting of these two forces is not a physical climax. It is the merging of body and spirit, the union of earthly passion and divine awareness. It is ecstasy without addiction, power without possession, love without loss. But this isn't just an Eastern idea. In the Song of Songs, the sacred erotic scripture buried in the middle of the Bible, the lover says, "Draw me after you, let us run. The king has brought me into his chambers." This isn't just a lover's plea, it's the soul's cry to God. And in Sufism, Rumi, perhaps the greatest mystic poet, speaks of longing so deep, so unbearable, that only dissolving into the beloved can quench it. He wasn't talking about a woman. He was talking about the divine. You see, the body is not a prison. It is a vessel. The senses are not distractions. They are doorways. When you feel attraction, desire, or the magnetic pull of another person, it is not just lust. It is the sacred echo of separation, the longing to return to unity. You just forgot how to listen. Your body remembers what your mind denies. That you are not meant to suppress or surrender blindly to desire. You are meant to sanctify it. To raise it from the ground of your being into the sky of your spirit. To walk the bridge between flesh and soul. And become whole. You've been taught that the answer is always more. More bodies. More options. More screens. More pleasure. But what if the more you chase, the emptier you become? What if every shallow hookup leaves behind something invisible, a silent tear in the soul? You see, lust is not the problem. Shallowness is. You've been conditioned to consume connection, not create it. To touch skin without touching soul. To say, I need you. When what you really mean is, I'm trying to escape myself. There was a time when desire was sacred. When the joining of two bodies was not an escape, but an offering. A ritual. A prayer. But now sex is fast. Disposable. Filtered through apps. Squeezed into time slots. Measured by performance, not by presence. And you wonder why you feel empty afterward. You wake up next to someone who doesn't know your soul. You feel lonelier with them than you do alone. Because what you really long for cannot be swiped into your life. It cannot be found in the friction of strangers. What you long for is depth. Sacred union. That invisible pull when your soul says, This is familiar. But we've numbed the longing. We scroll until it's silent. We masturbate until it's manageable. We fake intimacy until it doesn't hurt anymore. But deep down you know, you were never meant for fragments. You were meant for fusion. Not just body to body, but soul to soul. Spirit to spirit. You to the divine. You ache for something you've never fully touched. That ache is holy. Don't run from it. Don't medicate it with more porn, more hookups, more meaningless yes. Let the ache guide you. It is not weakness. It is your soul remembering. Remembering the one it was torn from. Remembering that every orgasm without soul is a beautiful lie. And every true connection, soul deep, godlit, is a homecoming. You're not crazy for wanting more. You're not wrong for craving depth. The world has gone shallow. But your heart? Your heart still remembers what sacred union feels like. And it refuses to settle for less. There comes a point when you're tired of being emptied. Tired of chasing pleasure that doesn't last. Tired of the release that only leaves you weaker. You begin to wonder, what if this energy inside me, this heat, this tension, this hunger, is not meant to be wasted? What if it is meant to be transformed? This is where the journey turns inward. Where desire stops being a curse and becomes your initiation. This is where you meet the sacred art of transmutation. You begin to see sexual energy not as a thing to get rid of, but as the most powerful fuel in your body. When you hold it, not suppress it, but truly hold it, something begins to happen. The heat rises. Not just in your body, but in your spirit. Your eyes sharpen. Your voice deepens. Your thoughts become crystalline. You walk into rooms and people feel something different. Not because you've touched them, but because you've touched yourself, your power, your primal essence. Retention isn't about repression. It's not about fear. It's about refinement. Imagine you have a fire burning inside you. If you scatter the flames across empty moments and casual indulgences, they disappear into smoke. But if you contain the fire, focus it, protect it, it becomes a torch. A light that illuminates not just your path, but the path of others. This is the alchemy ancient masters practiced. The yogis, the monks, the artists, the warriors. They weren't celibate because they hated sex. They were celibate because they understood it. They knew that sexual energy is the raw material of greatness. Retained, it becomes vision. Held, it becomes magnetism. Raised, it becomes divine light. But transmutation is not just about withholding, it's about listening. Listening to what your desire is actually saying beneath the surface. I want meaning. I want presence. I want to give this energy to something beautiful. And when you do, when you channel it into your purpose, your art, your service, your spiritual life, you don't feel deprived. You feel lit from within. Because you're no longer chasing ecstasy in others. You're generating it from within. The world will tempt you. Screens. ads, bodies. But every time you choose to hold the fire instead of wasting it, you rise. You become the alchemist. And your erotic energy? It becomes not your burden, but your sacred gift. There are moments in your life that don't feel ordinary. Moments that pierce through the noise. Moments when you meet someone, and something shifts. You don't know why. You can't explain it. But their presence awakens something in you. It's not just attraction. It's recognition. Like your soul whispering, "I've known you before." You feel their eyes and your defenses melt. You hear their voice and your inner walls crumble. This is not about lust. This is about something sacred rising through the flesh. Your desire in that moment is not just physical, it's spiritual. You're not craving their body. You're craving union. Not just with them, but with what they represent. A gateway. A mirror. A glimpse of the divine. The lover, when real, when present, when seen through the eyes of the soul, is not just a partner. They are a sacred mirror. They reflect back to you what is still unloved within yourself. Your yearning. Your shame. Your hunger. Your forgotten radiance. They become the altar where your false self dies, and your true self is revealed. This is why real love is terrifying. Because it strips away illusions. Because it demands you show up, not just with your body, but with your soul. In their presence, you cannot fake wholeness. And that's what makes it holy. In Sufi mysticism, they say, every lover is a veil for the beloved. That every person you've ever fallen for was never the end goal. They were the invitation. To see God. To touch what's eternal through the temporary. To taste the infinite through lips made of flesh. You ache for the union of opposites. The masculine and feminine. The spirit and the body. The known and the mystery. Not just in them, but within you. Because here is the truth no one teaches you. The union you seek in another is really the reunion of your soul with itself. When you find someone who reflects that union, who meets you in truth, vulnerability, surrender, that love becomes an initiation. Not into comfort, but into transcendence. And when the body joins with the soul, when the act becomes a prayer, when pleasure becomes presence, you no longer just have sex. You enter the sacred. You are not escaping life. You are awakening it. The lover becomes your mirror. The act becomes your offering. And your desire? It becomes a ladder to the divine. Lust is not evil. Let that sink in. It's not evil. It's not sinful. It's not dirty. It's just misunderstood. Because lust is what happens when sacred longing gets hijacked. Hijacked by the ego. By the addiction to control. By the craving for quick highs and cheap validation. There's nothing wrong with wanting to feel alive. But the question is, where are you trying to feel it from? You know the pattern. You feel empty, so you scroll. You feel lonely, so you swipe. You feel numb, so you chase the next hit of dopamine. But lust, at its core, is not about sex. It's about separation. It's what happens when the soul gets so starved for meaning, it tries to fill itself through the body. And like junk food, it feels good for a moment, until it doesn't. You tell yourself it's harmless. That you're just being human. That everyone does it. But deep down, you feel the quiet cost. The slow erosion of your energy. The dull ache after the climax. The haunting voice that asks, "Is this all there is?" You can't lie to your soul forever. Because the soul knows the difference between real connection and counterfeit pleasure. Lust without awareness is a form of spiritual starvation. You consume because you're disconnected. You chase because you forgot what you're truly hungry for. Not sex. Sacredness. Not release. Resonance. Not conquest. Communion. But the world profits off your forgetfulness. It sells you sex without soul. Pleasure without purpose. Freedom without meaning. And you buy it, because you've forgotten your own power. But here's the truth. Lust, when unconscious, is a trap. Lust, when conscious, becomes a teacher. Your desire is trying to tell you something. It's saying, wake up. It's saying, stop scattering your fire. It's saying, you were never meant to waste this gift on things that leave you emptier. You don't need to shame yourself. You don't need to erase your desire. You just need to return it to its source. And when you do, when you stop running from yourself and start listening to what your lust is really trying to show you, you find that at the center of your craving is the divine, not outside of your lust, within it. You've been looking for someone, maybe your whole life. That one person, that one connection, that perfect union that will finally complete the sentence you've been silently writing in your heart. You think they'll complete you, calm the chaos, answer the ache. But what if they can't? What if no one can? Because the union you're searching for, it was never out there. It was always inside you. Every spiritual tradition says the same thing in different tongues. You are not separate from the divine. You have simply forgotten. You were born into a world that taught you to look outward, to beg for love, to seek God in temples, in lovers, in religions, in bodies. But the temple has always been within you. You are the sacred ground. You are the holy fire. You are the place where the lover and the beloved meet. But here's the paradox. You must be alone long enough to remember that. You must sit in silence. Feel the ache without escaping. Let the loneliness melt into presence. And in that stillness, you begin to hear it. The voice beneath the noise. The whisper of the divine inside your very breath. The pulse of God in your bloodstream. Sexual energy rises when you stop leaking it. But divine union awakens when you stop searching for it. Because God isn't waiting in someone else's arms. God is waiting in the center of your being. In the quiet. In the ache. In the still, radiant power of your unclaimed self. You were made in the image of the Creator. Not just to worship, but to embody. You are not just a seeker. You are a bridge. A living altar. A burning prayer. A place where spirit and flesh meet, not in contradiction, but in harmony. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be celibate. You just need to be present. To feel your desire and bow to it. Not as a god, but as a guide. It will take you home, if you let it. It will burn what isn't real. It will leave you naked, raw, and alive. And in that sacred nakedness, you will find the one you've always been chasing. Not in another person, but in your own soul. You weren't made for numbness. You weren't made to scroll endlessly through filtered bodies, trading sacred energy for seconds of stimulation. You weren't made to wake up next to strangers and still feel like something's missing. You were made for ecstasy. Not the kind you chase, but the kind you become. You were made to burn, to long, to ache, not because you are broken, but because you are becoming. You think your desire is a distraction, but it is your invitation. You think your lust is shameful, but it is the raw voice of your soul, crying to be remembered. This world taught you to fear your own fire, to silence your hunger, to reduce your longing to biology. But your body knows the truth. It remembers. It remembers what sacred union feels like. It remembers the temple you came from. It remembers the kiss of the divine in every breath, every heartbeat, every pulse of desire. You are not a sinner for craving depth. You are not weak for longing to be held in truth. You are not lost. You are simply awakening. Awakening to a power that was never outside you. A power that rises from your root to your crown. A power that, when honored, becomes not just sexual, but spiritual. So pause now. Breathe. Feel the fire within you. Hold it, not to release it blindly, but to reclaim it. Because that energy you've been wasting? It's holy. And when you no longer fear it, no longer run from it, no longer give it away for cheap, it will rise. And you will rise with it. You are not meant to chase God. You are meant to become the bridge. You are the temple. You are the flame. You are the union. You were never meant to just survive this life. You were meant to burn through it. With desire. With devotion. With divine fire. Now rise, beloved. Your soul is ready to remember.